that we create things that we enjoy, we find meaning in, and that we care about. Sometimes I think we forget that making art is necessary, not only for our vitality, but for our health, our emotional health, and just our overall well-being. And that's why I think it's really important that we are able to create anywhere we go. And myself as an artist who is able to sort of take a sketchbook with me everywhere, it was much harder to take my camera with me everywhere because I'm also a photographer. Because the camera that I've had only really is the Sony a7 III, which is the camera that I'm shooting on right now. But I had always wanted something small that I could take with me everywhere I go. And so I really started taking seriously this year, finding a camera that was going to meet my needs in terms of being able to just shoot wherever I want and also provide a vintage feel. I was really inspired by all the different creators, photographers that I've been seeing, not only on social media, but on YouTube, and really feeling called to make my own mark with that same style. So I quickly did a lot of research and found out very quickly that the Sony RX100 is the best Digicam that you can purchase based on all the different people that I watched on the internet. And I fell in love with it and decided I wanted to get one myself. And I would have gotten the Mark 7 if I had $1,300 lying around. But since I do not, I got the Mark 3 instead. I found a really good deal on a near mint condition version of this. And so it was essentially brand new when I got it. And I got it for only about 500 bucks, which I think is a steal because brand new, the Mark 3 costs like $700, which is crazy how much this thing can hold value. But I'm very excited to talk about how this has changed my life creatively and share how it has allowed me to make art anywhere. The first thing is I love how compact this camera is. I can take it with me anywhere. It fits in my little tiny bag that I carry with me all the time. And so it's really easy for me to always sort of have that creative mindset on when I'm around and out and about in the world. So I'm more alert to things that are right in front of me that I can capture that moment and save as a memory for the rest of my life. So being able to take it with me everywhere allows me, it's a reminder that I can create at any moment and I could capture something at any moment. I also love how detailed the camera is, how great the sensor is. It's a 1-inch 20 megapixel sensor. I'm not gonna get into all of the specs in this video. I'm just gonna talk about my experience because I'm more of an experience guy, not a specs guy. But the sensor and the images I've been able to make out of this camera are quite phenomenal. And they rival my Sony a7 III. Obviously, I can't get the amount of bokeh that I get on my a7 III, but in terms of the detail and the character it has, I really think it shines through, and I adore the photos that I've been able to take on it. I love how versatile the zoom range is also. It is a 24 to 70 millimeter full frame equivalent lens, and I love the ability to shoot wide or close up, and I kind of wish it was a little longer of a range, but I think for what it is that I'm trying to capture, I think it gets the job done, and it does a really good job at it. Okay, here are the things that I wish were different and that I wish I could change about the camera. The first thing is the aperture ring that comes on the lens itself. I found that when I would go to grab the camera to take a photo, this finger here would just accidentally press it down like this. It's just a little too flimsy. I wish it had a little bit more of a tactile feel to it, like I maybe had some clicking so that those accidental moves wouldn't have happened. So I just ended up turning it off, and now I just use a little control wheel on the back to adjust my aperture. And it's kind of a bummer because I like the idea of being able to do this, but it just didn't work out for me. So I wish it was either in a different spot or it had a more tactile click, and maybe that's just my specific model that's like this. Maybe the Mark 7 is better, but I just don't know. I do love the zoom range. I think it's great. However, I find myself feeling a little limited by only having up to 70 millimeters. I'm the kind of guy who sees something far away and I want to zoom in on that subject and take that photo. I'm not able to do that with only 70 millimeters. But I'll get into the beauty of that limitation later in this video. But the last thing that I wish was a little different was I wish the autofocus was slightly better. And specifically the continuous autofocus mode, I just found it unusable when I was out and about. It just was breathing a lot, it was hunting a lot, and I was just like, okay, I can't use this mode, so I have to only use autofocus single mode, which is fine, but I do wish that it was a little bit better, and I think that's just the age of the camera. Talk about the beauty of this camera's limitations and how it has taught me a lot about my creativity and how I have to shift my expectations and my perspectives in order to convey an emotion or convey something that I want to say in the image. So one of the things I talked about was that I couldn't zoom in as far as I wanted to zoom in. And the way that I've looked at that now is, I see a subject far away and I want to capture that somehow. But what if instead of just, honing in on that one subject and taking everything else out of the frame, how can I position myself and position the subject in a way that the things around it highlight it more, right? And so having a zoom range that isn't exactly what I want and is a little bit limiting in my opinion really has forced me to be a better photographer and think and slow down and pay attention. And I think anytime as creators, if we are forced to slow down, I think that benefits our creative practice. And I think often not only capitalism, but these tech companies are sort of feeding us the message that there is a perfect product out there, that my product is the best product, right? And I think we can get caught up in this perfection over our gear. And I just don't think it's realistic to expect that out of things, obviously. And even in our life, right, there will always be limitations. There will always be imperfections. And the more that we can accept that, not only in our creative practice, but also in life, I think the better off we're going to be as human beings. And that's what I love about art and photography and creating, is that the process of creating reflects the process of our life. And the more that we can learn from that, the more we can learn from our lives. The next thing that makes this camera so special is I think that the sensor and the images that it creates has a character. And I can't really describe it very well, and I'm gonna try. It's more something you have to feel when you look at the images, and I hope that you can see with the images on screen what I'm talking about. But the best way that I think I can describe it in words is that it has sort of an older, vintage kind of feel balanced by the sophisticated sensor that it is and the detail that it has. Like, I think it balances kind of new and old at the same time. That's the best way I can describe it. And hopefully you can see that. And I think I try to bring that out in the images in post-processing. I think I try to bring out the colors in a different way that make you feel nostalgic, but also feel modern enough that it kind of creates this juxtaposition. I think what gives it that vintage feel plus a new feel is that sometimes I will accidentally have crushed blacks or overexposed highlights, and that's just sort of a limitation with the camera. Sometimes it just doesn't have the best dynamic range in comparison to the latest cameras. But I honestly kind of love the way it looks. I'm finding beauty in the photo not looking quite exactly how I want it to look, and sometimes the camera doesn't nail focus, and then I look at it afterwards and I'm like, oh, actually, I kind of like that it didn't nail the focus, and it kind of adds an extra layer of depth that I wasn't expecting it was going to have. Or sometimes it's just not fast enough and I the shot that I wanted to compose didn't end up being the one that I wanted because the subject moved too quickly. But then I look back at it later when I'm editing and I'm like, you know what? It actually, the place that the person is that I didn't want them to be in, it actually adds an element that I didn't expect that made the photo maybe a little bit better than the composition that I was hoping it would be. I also think that the bokeh has a specific feel that it's just different. I don't know how to describe it. It's sort of, it just feels old and dreamy. Maybe there's a better word for dreamy, but I don't know, it feels maybe nostalgic. I need better words, but I hope you can understand what I mean just by looking at the images. So I think that there's beauty in its imperfections and beauty just like life. And I just love how much joy this camera has brought me. Anytime I see something, I get so excited to pull it out and take a photo because it's so tiny. And I love that nobody takes me seriously when I'm with it. I had a guy recently be like, oh, I haven't seen one of those in a while. And it was like, I had to tell him like, this thing's actually pretty damn powerful for what it is. Like it looks like a toy, but it's amazing. It has revitalized my energy for photography, my love for the art, and reignited my flame for photography. It has kickstarted my love for wanting to print my photos too. You can see in this photo book that I made just how, like half of the photos in this photo book are from this camera and the others from my A7 III. And I just think that you probably wouldn't be able to tell that if you were just looking through the photo book. You'd probably think it's the same camera. And that's what I love about it. I just think it's amazing to have a powerhouse with me all the time. The bottom line, the main thing I love about this camera is that it gives me the freedom to create anywhere I go. It pushes me to engage in the craft more often and push to be a better photographer and be able to engage in that creative mindset all the time, to be more present in anywhere that I am. Because I often get lost in my head thinking about things, or I'm just going about my life and I forget to really look up and see what's right in front of me. And in the city I live, I sometimes get bored of it, but this camera has helped me even find a new love again for the city that I'm in and really just find beauty anywhere I go. And it's just helped me save memories that would have just been moments that passed me by, just fleeting moments. And I love that this camera has been able to provide me with a sense of pause and presence. I hope you keep creating. I hope you keep taking photos. And if you don't know who I am, my name is Kai. I'm an artist, photographer, and life coach. Thanks for watching. Say hi to my cat. Psst.